Hey everyone, welcome to a very special first ever recording of Google Workspace Recap in person.
In person, here we are.
In person. Not only in person, Steve and I in person.
Yeah, first time we met last night.
First time ever.
Hours ago.
Less than 24 hours ago. Slightly more than 24 hours ago, actually. It's midnight. We're recording this at midnight. We've been working on this for 3 hours here. Most of it was just schmoozing, which you missed out on. So, sorry about that. Here's the rest of the intro. My name is Jesse Nowlin. My co-host is Steve Larsen, and we have a couple of guests here with us.
Some return guests.
But first, if it wasn't very obvious, we're recording from Moscone in San Francisco, which, is right behind us down there. But I had to close the blinds because we had too much glare from the lighting here so that you could actually see us in this hotel room where the lighting is terrible. So hopefully this A, sounds good, B, looks good. We'll find out later. Hopefully it's a good experience for everyone. We're recording from Google Cloud's conference, Google Cloud Next in San Francisco. Steve, so great to actually meet you in person.
It's been amazing. Yeah.
Let me see your nails.
Ah, the nails. Yes. So,
Steve
Google
has
colors.
outperformed or set up for showing off at Google Next and has the most fantabulous nails in all of San Francisco. With the googly colors.
There was one other Googler actually that had her nails done.
Chloe.
Chloe, correct, yes. Do you know Chloe?
Yes.
Okay, Chloe. Yes. So Chloe did hers.
I need to meet her. I messaged her just now. I need to meet her tomorrow. Hopefully.
You didn't see my tweet? She said that your nails were very cute. But you did one up her in the fact that you have the Google logo on your thumbs. So nicely done there. Way to show up and show the love for Google, which is obviously near and dear to our hearts.
It's been 4 years since this has happened. So
it's been 5 for me. I missed 19.
Now, there's going to be some B-roll of the nails, right? Like close up.
There will definitely be B-roll and on Twitter of the nails. In full 4K 60 frames,
I know you
just
guys
to make
don't slouch
sure.
on production value here.
We try not to. One camera, 2 camera, 3 camera. There's
Tonight
a 4th one around here somewhere.
Very overproduced.
Very overproduced.
The number of cameras and microphone. Yeah.
But you never know what's going to fail. So my camera, sometimes the big one isn't used to recording this long. Usually I use the webcam. You better be recording on there. Otherwise, we're going to be picking you up very quietly on my mic, which would suck. But hopefully that's not going to be the case. We've got multiple mics. We got multiple setups. We got multiple lights. Lights, multiple people. Hey, Lights is a friend of mine. That's pretty funny. Only to me, not the rest of you. Sorry about that. Also joining us, for those who are not watching the show on YouTube and are only hearing us, we also have, and to introduce those to everybody on YouTube, is Brian Kim, who you may have seen before and known from being on the show and a big part of the community, Charles Maxson, and not in my show notes because he showed up a little bit later, but
decided to join the last minute.
A little bit of a showdown in the past.
Wait, first time on the show, actually. This
is
first time on the show.
So I thought you had actually
been on my show.
Yes,
which you haven't done in 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, I've been.
Come on, get back to it. Let's go.
So Troy Edwards, here we go.
Troy Edwards, also welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Welcome. I have one question for you, Troy. Why'd you stop after our episode? Was it that good or that bad?
No, that's a totally fair question. I think, honestly, I started at a new company in January, which, we talked about on the show. And I've been head down just trying to keep my job. I don't know if you have read the news in tech lately, but job security is not so great.
Of all the reasons for you to postpone your return to showbiz or joining us on the bigger stage, that is one of the best. We obviously want you to keep your job. And Workspace after work.
After dark.
No, Workspace after work.
Oh, after work.
This is Workspace after dark.
This
is the after dark show.
Yeah.
The official
that was
sub-brand
tonight is Workspace.
That was the joke. Yeah, right. Workspace after dark. Yes,
I got it right.
Workspace after work.
The Workspace after dark. That's great.
Yeah, the whole premise of the show, if you haven't seen it before, is to connect the global workspace community of admins, Googlers, partners, and really just collaborate. A platform for people to get together and share experiences and share stories from work experience and content creation experience, like our episode was, So yeah, I should get back to it. I think there's a purpose for it in the ecosystem in our space. I've just been kind of busy, you know?
So to summarize, in other words, our direct competitor. So get back to work so that you can keep us honest and we can keep bringing a good show.
No, you guys have a different purpose. I love like the updates, podcast because you guys are diligent and consistent, and my show is the total opposite of that. I'm, someone who's just reaching out to other colleagues in the industry and wanting them to share their experience, and you guys are weekly and amazing at what you do, and I don't think we compete at all. I think we can be very complimentary to each other.
There's so much room.
Well, especially this is what we were talking about earlier about the helping everyone out in the workspace kind of ecosystem
space
and being complementary
workspace
to yes, exactly. And not really competing, but supporting everyone, right? And making sure that this whole group of people kind of like evolve and grow and expand and all that stuff. So that's what we're about.
Yeah.
And we were chatting before the show. This is hard. We release so many things.
There's not that many people.
So many different angles.
And
so many things. I mean, it's hard for us as a Googler to stay on top of these things. And so it's like, how do we actually? And so you guys bring it together. So I love the fact that you guys do this, and we welcome competitive shows. We welcome more people's voices. It's important because it's hard for us to stay on top of these things.
Sure.
Well, we appreciate that.
I was
as
surprised.
A Googler, speaking on behalf of your employer.
Yeah.
There's so many moving parts. There's so many pieces.
Oh, for sure.
It's like it's coming at you. And my favorite thing is we hear things, we know they're coming, they launch. Like, I've been talking about that for a while. Like, I thought it launched a while ago, and I didn't realize it didn't launch a while ago. And I've already was telling people it launched, and think, whoops. And so like, oh, Lamely. But no. And so you guys actually, I love the fact that you actually talk about it when it happens. Yeah. And I already talked about it when it shouldn't have been talked about. But so no, that's important.
Well, we try to not. We allude to those things sometimes.
No,
but we try not to break embargoes to the best of our ability.
But we have this problem all the time. We go, and did you know we have the?
Do we? No, next month.
I don't know. And so you guys are really right on the letter. So I actually love the fact that you guys, when it is real, you talk about it.
There are times that we're preparing the show notes and Steve and I are like, isn't this old? I've been using this for 6 months. Oh, that was the alpha. My bad. Yeah. This is new. Let's write it down. Here's what we experienced.
Yeah, I think that's like partly like what we do on the Workspace admin channel too. Right. Like we sort of like fact check what Google publishes. Sometimes what gets published on the blog doesn't really match what's on the support articles. Doesn't really match what's in the available in the admin console. Right. So we actually test those things and make sure that what Google says is actually true or false, and then we just like let people know that it is like this is how it's done in the admin console. So, like some of the content on the channel might be outdated at this point. Yeah. But I think like we sort of like help like educate the admins and then just help them gain the understanding of like how things like fit together, whether it's Workspace, whether it's Chrome, or whether it's like something else that's like adjacent to some of the like the features that's available to the admins.
Yeah. So if anyone hasn't seen or heard about workspaceadmins.org, that's something that myself, Brian, Kim Nilsson, and also Dominic Kugelman kind of put together. It kind of evolved from some of the internal documents that Google created. Actually, the notes from the field documents. That's kind of where the inspiration came from for me. That's that started a long time ago with internally at Google, and I took those and kind of had inspiration to create these notes about what actually happens about the Google product, the Workspace product, right? Which, like you said, is not exactly what's documented in support articles, which the support team doesn't actually say that can be done. And we try to share that information with everyone that, uses Workspace. And that's what Workspace Admin is about. And kind of similar to what we're doing here, where we're like trying to keep people updated about what's happening with Workspace. But that's a little bit more specific, where it's, trying to figure out what Google, doesn't say that is happening that, you can actually say, well, here, this is how it actually works, right? Yeah. So that's what that's all about.
Kind of cracking into the beast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that we discovered a while ago was the whole fact that Google says, well, you can't migrate documents from one organization to another. Well, when Team Drives came out and shared drives came out, that was possible. Right. You move.
I think they broke it, by the way. I've been getting some comments on that.
Oh, no.
That was one of my most popular performing blog posts. You remember that, right?
That was the Tab Geeks.
I never made it into a video. I really should have, but my Tab Geeks blog post on that was talking about how you could create a shared drive and transfer between orgs. I tried it a few times recently, and maybe I'm just misremembering my steps, but it didn't work.
Oh, no.
So I think they closed the loophole.
No.
A few moments later.
Back to the show. Little bit of a break there. It's been a long day for everybody.
Yes.
Also joining us, we did that huge discussion around all the things. We have like 11 million things that they announced today. During Google Next, we're not going to probably cover them all because, quite frankly, I can't remember them all. True. Also, Wi-Fi in the session this morning and the keynote was dead, so I couldn't even tweet all of those things. Well, I'm still traumatized. It was terrible.
And for Charles, for your presentation, that was not that great.
You were live demoing, not live.
Yeah, we were live demoing, not live. We built 13 brand new demos to show that we show live.
Oh my God.
Without the internet, we went finger puppets. And it was just an unfortunate thing. So yeah, it was kind of fun. Here's the thing though, and I saw the bad net. I was like, wow, I was disappointed. It wasn't everyone watched, no one left, everyone was still trying to pay attention to what you were saying. I was like, it was a great takeaway, but I was like, but why? But no, it was hard. But I mean, first conference in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Right. A lot of people.
And it was live. Yeah. It was live.
So what was your session, Charles?
So what we talked about was we wanted to actually help people really feel good about what AppScript can do for them. Yeah. And it was funny.
And this was over the Innovators Lounge, like the little.
Yeah, so it was a lightning talk, so it wasn't like a big session thing where we had our own.
But I mean, I saw a lot of people came over there. There's a lot of people. That was the busiest area.
So one of the neat things about this is you actually sign up for the sessions you get to go to. It was like you had to be subscribed to get in, and so we were packed, and so we were max cap, and we were talking to people beforehand and why were they there, what are they doing, and then we went to go on. And literally, when we actually were rehearsing a few minutes before, everything worked. You got on stage, it all failed because that's the way it works in television. And so,
classic.
That's showbiz. That's showbiz.
Yes. But the greatest thing was the people were like, we were watching their faces, trying to follow along with what we were saying, with what we thought they would see. Yeah. And it was the weirdest thing ever. But I appreciate, first of all, I thank you everybody who stayed. But it was super weird. But again, big conference, big hall. Yeah. But being in person is still a joy because
it's wonderful.
It was great.
It was hard before.
So shortly after your presentation, the four of us were over at just across the street, listening to the Workspace kind of keynote, essentially.
Yeah.
And a fire alarm goes off.
Oh my!
So
this is great.
As this AI demo is on the screen, we're listening to an audio in the whole building saying, "Please leave the building." There's a fire alarm that's going off.
It was a high-tech, fancy building in San Francisco.
Exactly.
So it's the super.
Yeah. So this wasn't like an alarm.
Please don't worry. There is a fire signal in the building. We're like, is this?
Right, we thought it was part of the demo because it was at the same time where Duet AI was responding to what was presented. I'm like, why is it responding like this is not what it should respond with? This is really weird.
Skynet has engaged.
Brian and I were in the same session, and we were a little bit late because we were enjoying our lunch out in the Yerba Buena Gardens.
Yeah, very nice,
very cool. Good lunch also, by the way.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, right. So anyway, we got caught up in enjoying our lunch, so we were a couple minutes late. So we were up in the nosebleeds for that session. And when the fire alarm came on, we didn't really get up. We didn't move too much.
We didn't. We're just like, huh?
In fact, I actually opened a bag of Haribo cola candies, and we enjoyed a couple of candies and just hung out for a little while. And sure enough, they were back in business.
Okay.
Yeah, most of us did not leave that room.
So the lesson we've learned here in San Francisco is if the building was actually on fire, we'd be in trouble.
Half the people would die, probably. We would not survive.
Yeah, smoke inhalation might get us.
Right. So I was filming during that, and it's really funny because the guy on stage who was presenting, doing the demo, had his hands right about in front of him like this, out in front of me for the podcast listeners, and he was practically mid-sentence when the thing went off. And there was a little speaker coming on sound, and he looked up almost as if he was expecting it.
Right.
So we're all looking at him going, all right, this is cool. This is a different layer of audio we weren't expecting because it sounds different from the rest of it. And then it was a very robotic voice saying that this is a signal for, there's a fire signal in the building. And he's just kind of holding his hands there, looking up, going around like, I don't really know. And he kind of hangs out there for a minute while it finishes the announcement, and he looks around and he gets ready to say something. And then the whole thing repeats itself again.
Yeah.
And so Steve and I are just sitting there like,
the second time through was the moment we knew it was like not a drill.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then shortly afterwards, they were like, "Oh, it's a false alarm." They came over to the speaker. So
I think that was Dave. It was Dave. I think it was Dave, right?
Yeah,
Dave,
it was a shame that they got interrupted.
Yeah. Well, he did a pretty good job. Actually, a really good job resuming.
Of course.
Yeah, I kind of joked with Brian that he came back on at 1.5x.
Nice.
Like he was at like 1.5
Let's
times
catch
speed.
up.
Yeah, like he had repeated a few parts that he had already said, and it was like it was.
Well, I think they were
2x or 1.5x
because that was a recorded session. Like they were like going to re-edit that probably to then like split.
Well, also for the
together.
the cohesion of the demo, it makes sense that he would restart that, and he did a good job with it.
Well, I was going to say so people ask
that was Harris, right? Harris.
I'm trying to look up here.
I believe it was Harris.
We've got it.
So I believe
kudos to you, Harris, if you happen to end up listening to this.
So Karen Ireland did our session, and people were like, well, how did you know how to prepare for that or get ready for that? And I was like, first of all, I was like, it's 2023, and I didn't expect the internet to drop. But then I was like, I don't remember another choice when it went down. I was like, well, dance and talk. I mean, in part of it. So I intentionally
you've done that a lot. I mean,
I have done that. We intentionally didn't make videos because we wanted the live thing to be what captivated people.
Sure.
But then we were up there going, how would I explain what I think I remember to get people to understand what we said, but they have no idea what we're talking about. But I couldn't draw the picture, and it was hard. It was hard because we're trying to figure it out. And so afterwards, I was like, I don't know if that worked, but everyone like stayed attention and watched. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think for your session it worked because I think you had an assumption that like most people who are attending had some familiar with like AppScript.
Right.
So I think they could like follow along with like what you had prepared. They didn't necessarily need to see the demos, but it would have been nice to have, but not a like must have.
But even I was trying to figure out, well, if we did this here and this here, now help me. So the audience was great and understanding, but again, it's just like you didn't expect it to drop. And here we are, we're back live. And
reality of first Google Next in 4 years.
Doing it live.
Well, and that's a great thing. So everybody's like, we're here for Gen AI to change the world, but also
the internet.
There's the reality of infrastructure, and there are things that have to happen first. And so it's like, okay, how do we not lose the sight that we can do amazing things, but we also, there's reality before that.
And I think the other part too that we don't think about too is that the events team that's running this Google Next has not been there for 4 years. They're brand new. It's a brand new team probably. There might be a couple people, right? But most of this team that's running this event they have not done it. This is the first time they've done it, right?
Do we know that's true?
There's a lot of it. Here's the other thing. I mean, the last time you stress, I said 50,000 people live.
18.
For sure.
Yeah, it's 18,000 people.
I don't know. It was my first Google Next today. Right. That was my first experience. So broke my cherry.
Welcome.
But
newbies.
I mean, I thought
newbies from Canada.
I was impressed with the level of organization. I mean, the level of customization of the space.
Yeah, it was not far off from what I remember 4 years. It was not that bad.
Yeah,
there were a few hiccups here and there. You run events too, and we know the minor details, but generally,
always.
if you've never been to an event, if this is your first time, it went, I think, as well as it could have gone.
Yeah.
For not having this event for 4 years.
Absolutely. So my last event was 2018 because I had a baby 4 or 5 weeks prior to 2019, so that wasn't happening. But in 2018, there were so many people, and it was a little bit chaotic because they were renting out movie theaters, which is 2 or 3 doors down from Moscone, just to be able to accommodate people. And I don't know if you've ever tried to think about a speech in a movie theater. Not the greatest venue for seeing your presenter for starters. We couldn't see the people that were talking about the sessions that we were in. So there's none of that. The space, as you said, to your point, is much better organized, much better set up.
Space is funny. I've been doing conferences for feels like ever. We all got the same.
You are the oldest one of the whole group.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean,
The senior in the room.
Thank you for that remembrance.
I meant senior in terms of stature, not in terms of age.
It's like Memorial Day, but that felt great. But anyway, no, I remember we used to get people in the same room.
Yeah.
Now you have rooms.
That's what, a conference room back
No,
then?
no.
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
No, the overflow rooms and all the different rooms. And I was watching the people come in. And first of all, the flow. And so our session was kind of weird because we were also on the runway where everyone's coming out of the keynote. And I go, it's like working in an airport, like chapel, where there's people just floating by. It's not the volume of people. It wasn't. I mean, years ago it was.
Did you feel a little bit like maybe one of the preachers that we might have seen on one of the on the corners on the way to the Moscone Center from our hotels?
Did you see that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's funny thing you said for a second. People walking by, I'm like, we still have 3 seats up front. And I go, and I was like, I'm getting these hands saying no. I go, no, you have to reserve the seats. I'm like, what? Oh, okay. So I didn't realize that. No, everything was signed up, and we were sold out way before our session was done. Because again, the number of volumes here. And that's the thing I'm kind of blown away by. The volume of people here is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard the same thing, the feedback about the London next sessions or the London next event that's happening in a few months.
Oh, yeah?
They were planning for 2,000 people. 20,000 people signed up, interested for that event.
So there are people
that's
here.
10x, like 10 times the number of people they planned for are wanting to come to that event.
I absolutely believe it.
And you know what they're going to get? They're going to get 100x the number of times AI is said in that event that they expected.
Absolutely.
That is.
Well, I've had a lot of conversations with people today that were saying that they're from Spain, they're from Portugal, they're from Brazil, they're from all over the world. So to say that something that on that side of the planet is another event, that absolutely makes sense to me.
It's so amazing. So I did Miami's I.O.
Yeah. Well, you were trucking around all over.
And we were doing a bunch of them. Yeah. And a gal comes up and she's like, I came here from Korea. I'm like,
what? Flew into Korea.
And she flew from Korea. And she's like, I just wanted to come talk to your team. I was like, I'm sorry.
Wow.
What? Really?
That's a 26-hour flight.
I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I sat and talked to her. She was fascinated by it. She was amazing. I was like,
you have to spend time with her.
But it's like, why? No, but I mean,
the London event.
It's actually become just so globally like, wow.
Well, and a rarity. I mean, there's people from every market who have been restricted from meeting in person for years, right? And when an event of this stature comes back onto the calendar, I think everyone takes notice.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, I always said myself, I'm a live performer. I love to talk to people in person. And when the pandemic came and I was a video, people are just like, they want to talk to people in person. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about there's some quality about that. So you actually just like, you get more out of it. You hear more. You can stand up behind them without even asking a question and listen in, where it's not, how do you participate? It's just being a part of it. So I think it's very different. And people like to be back.
Well, it's not just that. I went to 2 different events tonight, and I mean, we all met online. This is actually the first time. I mean, you've met, I think, before.
Yeah. Well, Brian and I did. Yeah, Brian and I did
you
meet
and Brian.
once.
I was driving through
Chicago. Yeah, right.
Personally, I've never met any of you.
Not with you.
Before this.
Right, I met you in person. Yeah.
Nice to meet you in person.
And we lived down the road from each other, which is really weird.
And you were on our show.
Yeah.
But I was at an event, and all the people in that room I would not have met online in a Google Meet, because we're from different circles and different groups and different centers and whatnot. But I had the privilege of meeting them tonight, and there were some very good connections that I was meeting, and great conversations that happened. So there is, in person still definitely has its place.
Absolutely.
I would not say off in person, pandemic, whatever.
So I'll say one thing was really interesting to me tonight. I mean, I've been going to these events for years, and I always said the most important thing you can do is go to the expo hall and talk to partners. And it's like, you can learn things that you've never heard. You would never look all these things up. You can read our documentation online, you'll get it. and it came true to me tonight. We have a great booth, we have great presence, and I'm proud of what we did. But the Partner Expo was packed. It was, first of all, it's like 10 degrees warmer, and it was packed. Partners were getting infiltrated by people like wanting to know, what can we do? How can we do it? How do we do more? How do we get more? And it's been amazing for them to actually finally get to talk to people face to face. So I actually felt we were kind of like passed by, which is fine. I don't care. We have documentation. You'll figure us out. But the Partner Expo was just packed and just overwhelmed. And every partner I've been talking to has been like, wow, we thought this, we got this. We have not been able to shut down or stop talking, or we need throat lozenges. The whole thing is out of control. It's been great. And so people just like pent up. It's like, let us go out and learn and meet and expand and grow. Just beyond what we can do. We've done a good job. I mean, I did sessions in the last 2 next pandemic. It's like, cool, you're in front of the camera, you talk, you're like, oh. But there's still the whole, I can throw a question, you can throw an answer back. Right. It just doesn't get replaced.
Right. Well, back and forth.
I mean, that session we did in Chicago, that room was packed. It was full of people, you know, in a small place in Chicago. And I think seeing that happen there, I knew that like this event was going to be like similar kind of experience, you know. Just
and there's no key for
so well received.
Networking is the number one thing. You mentioned it. I mean, you haven't met some folks in person or whatever. Networking is the number one thing we did.
Yeah.
Why not take a little quick break and come back for more?
Okay, we're back.
Wait, time out.
Bring us back.
We have updates? I'm this close to throwing out the updates, by the way, because this is awesome.
It is.
I'm so happy to. First of all, we glossed over this in the beginning. You're right. Steve, in person, hello, for the first time in 3 years.
Yes,
What?
I know.
I have some B-roll of that. Yeah, we're going back to the beginning. Capture this.
Yes.
First time in person. You're not as short as you said you were.
I thought you were taller.
No, I know. I mean, I'm blown away by the fact that we talked about this when you guys came on my podcast. The fact that you guys haven't met until tonight.
Right.
It's nuts.
And I get to be a
Testament
part
to
of it.
remote work.
I feel special.
You are special.
Yeah.
Witnessing history right here.
It is.
Yeah.
Witnessing. I think, actually, you want to talk about history, was the CEO of NVIDIA showing up on the keynote stage today with the head of Google Cloud, TK Thomas Kurian, to talk about their work together. I think that was mind-blowing. Great to witness. You weren't there.
I was not there.
You don't like keynotes?
I do not like the keynotes. No, I like to wander on the floor, talk to people, like see that stuff. The keynotes are recorded. They're recorded. You can watch them again. They're recorded. Like, you know, I think most of the talks that come from the very, very high-level executives, they're recorded often, and they're things that you've heard before.
Yeah, they're talking points.
So the best one that I had today, the best talk that I had today was the, what's new with chat.
That was a good one.
And that
was two PMs that came there.
Who?
And who was that? Let's
I didn't mean to call you on that. But...
No, I know. But I would have
now.
to see who that was. Wait, who was the agenda?
Was after the keynote.
So while you're looking it up,
right.
The thing I love about the keynote, I'm normally on the vendor side because I've been with the vendor for a while, is when people come out, our first thing is, what's your reaction? What do you think? Mm-hmm. And we were watching people coming out today, and the energy and the pouring out, like the pounding of the feet and the talk and everything. And my session was right outside the hallway. I was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah,
we were like,
right.
This endless stuff of people who are just like energetic. I'm like, wow. I'm pretty sure they liked it because they were happy, loud. I mean, it was a weird thing. I was like, you can just feel the energy coming out of it. You can feel
the whole event. The first one since,
I think the energy in general was pretty palpable. It was, but this was, again, not to belabor it, but first event in 4 years in person. All those people in that room, the amount of AV and prep and everything that went into making that moment happen when they came out for that keynote for the first time in front of that crowd. I mean, none of those leaders have experienced that in the last 4 years either.
It's been a while.
Yeah. You're talking about the leaders, two leaders of trillion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
Right.
They've been in
8,000 people there sitting there.
The
that was an
absolute
8,000 person
cutting edge, state of the art between those two people right now.
They have done Google Next on camera though.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
a lot of
It's
today
different.
was.
No,
That's
but I've
doing it
I've
with a live
been the
audience.
on-camera person. I'm just like,
that's pre-recorded in front of. A
oh
few,
my
just-
god!
just not-
I'm
yeah.
talking
100
to a little
people.
box, and it's going to look at me, and I'm blah 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 blah. It's so hard to capture an audience.
I agree.
Yeah.
To talk to people and not be able to get the response back
Right. It's not.
is super hard. I have a newfound. This is a pandemic thing. A newfound thing for talent who just talk into the camera and they talk and they actually get excited about it.
Right.
I can't.
Why? Thank you.
I get. Pumped,
I know, yeah,
I get
I mean,
pumped up
yeah.
by the people
It's just-
who talk.
Just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
you
come back,
lost
come back,
it.
come back.
No,
Oh, I lost
no,
it.
shit.
I'll hang
paying
another one
attention.
out there
What
later.
time?
I'm
What
not
time?
used to hosting with so many people in the room. Damn straight.
But time out. You have each other to play off of. Just imagine you're sitting in a spare bedroom in your house and you're talking into your little fluffy microphone thingy and you're talking and you're hoping that somebody is inspired by your shit. Sorry.
I hope somebody's
Hey,
listening.
That sounds like Workspace Admin's YouTube channel. It's just me, Tay.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, going back to the 2 p.m. or the engineers that were on the chat conversation. Yeah. So
You found the names?
I did.
Mike and-
got them. I got no. Mike came later.
Okay.
So it was Rashid Agarwal.
Rashid?
Rashid
Rashid Agarwal.
Agarwal.
He was the engineering
and
director. And then it was also Vasim Jasti, so of the director of product management for Google Workspace.
And then guest
Vamsi
speakers.
Jesse.
Yeah.
There was a couple of guest speakers
Vasim
there as well.
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yeah, they had
Colgate,
3
and so on.
customers. Colgate was there.
Airbus.
Airbus, and then another one, which
third one?
was
Vendasta.
Vendasta.
I love his title, though.
The czar
Tech
of
Czar, was
czar
it?
of IT.
Czar of IT of Vendasta.
That was his.
I'm totally
yes,
adopting
czar of
that. That's
IT.
going on my business cards.
Yes.
Czar of
He
IT.
definitely
Definitely
made it.
or just straight to the
Well, that was,
tier to-
but also, not. They're like what 800-person company, so it's not like massive like Airbus
Okay.
and Colgate. But
A master of SMB.
I feel like he
Czar.
made that title czar. Yeah,
Is this Czar
yeah.
earned with 800 users?
Well,
I
there was
mean,
a-
I don't know.
he's master and commander. He can call it whatever the hell he wants.
Exactly.
I've had
Yeah.
some pretty ridiculous titles in my
So,
career. I at one point I was a millennial strategist.
Nice.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
I only worked for
that's
9 years
impressive.
of a
Yeah, millennial strategist.
Then
You're
it's
over
all
40, I don't
Gen
care
Z.
about
That was a pretty specialist role.
There was one point in one of the Gen AI sessions today.
Yeah, about Gen Z. Yeah.
Oh, how to market this to Gen Z because they're the only ones that care
Create a
about
new
this
slide.
product.
So,
Yeah.
so the elephant in the room. You just stepped on it. And you brought up.
Where?
No. But you asked about
Oh,
it.
okay.
Gen AI.
What's that? Never heard of it.
Sure. That means you didn't leave the room today.
$30 per person per month.
Sure, that's
Right.
one way to look at it.
one part. Yeah.
But I mean, it's the elephant
Okay.
in the room. It's the only. I shouldn't say only. It is a thing most people came here to hear today.
Let's see. Of
Okay,
the notes
so
that we have,
I-
1, 2, 3,
It
4,
is-
several hundred of them are
yeah.
all about Duet.
Sure, and we can talk about SKUs in a second, but it's what people came for.
Yes.
My question to you,
Yes.
as the Googler in the room, were people satisfied? What did you hear? What did you think? What did you feel? What was your reception to it, and what's your expectation of it?
Okay.
Because first of all, it's going to solve everything you ever had a problem for, but did it?
It's going to attend
So
meetings from me. Full stop.
Okay. No.
Okay. Next opinion.
Next.
I think what I saw today, I saw more than I expected from it today. Honestly,
Okay,
I really
good.
did. I did.
Significantly improved.
But yes,
Yeah,
but I don't.
yeah.
But I
Shockingly.
don't. But it's not $30 per user
Okay.
more than I thought.
Tell me more.
Right. So I think that extra functionality is part of what you expect from an evolving platform, an evolving product. Right.
You said,
And this is what you should expect from
Yeah, but-
figure out how to add these new features onto your existing tiers, and wherever that falls into, great. Enterprise Plus, Enterprise Standard, whatever it is. It some of those features fall within each of those categories, right? And the value of adding a whole new tier to $30 per user per
Sure.
I
mean,
But what is the value of the unknown?
It more than doubles, sometimes triples. What
I
people
think
pay.
we're talking about, guys. We're talking about we're not talking about adding a new feature to Workspace. We're talking about giving you a permanent collaborator as an assistant across Workspace.
You're hired.
And
you're hired.
Call me a sales guy.
He was at Slack for a while, so he's got that whole thing. Yeah, he's got that angle.
No, I'm a sales guy. I am. Full disclosure, I'm a sales guy. But I would say the thing that satisfied me the most out of today's sessions was the refreshed, updated narrative from Google Cloud around Gen AI that is not the same. We're Google. We've been entrenched in AI for years. We've been doing this for a while.
There's
We're
plenty
responsible.
of that.
So that's been around for a year,
they're
right?
They're still doing
today.
That.
No, but it's there.
I heard in 4 sessions, those exact words.
I know, but it's important when you consider the competition.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And your data is your data. One of my cameras just died.
And they're not obtuse to that, right? And I mean that camera angle of me is gone, which I'm not upset about. But
at this point,
if I had hair.
do the whoosh. Do the whoosh.
No, not yet. I'll do it later.
Keep going.
Oh, sure. It's okay for you to do it.
I'm the host. I can do what I want.
I think the fact that there was a renewed narrative around Gen AI and a lot of much needed partner nourishment and enablement today around how to progress forward with the sales of Duet AI. That was really important for me.
So the biggest thing for us is pump the brakes. It's like, don't oversell this thing. First of all, these things are amazing and they're happening. And there's things I've been using internally and externally that are amazing. I left a few explorers out there because they're amazing. I mean, I'm like, wow. Yeah. But it's like the driverless car regime, right? They're like, sure, it's happening, but take it with a grain of salt. In some facets, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be perfect. Everything is not going to be it's just done. But the way it's progressing and where it's actually finding itself and how you're actually changing the way people work with it, it's going to get. It's just going to spin faster and faster. It's going to be something that's going to be really amazing. And so I think that, yes, hold your applause. Right. But wow, the opportunity it's really starting to show itself. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, little things. So I, by trade, am a app script developer, right? It's one of my things. I talk about how do you actually, work with Google Workspace and actually create things quickly. The fact that Bard writes my code faster than I can, right? And it works in a few short months, right? Well, I mean, one of the things I talk about is, you don't have to expect it to be perfect. No, but it's more perfect than you are. Sure.
Yeah. And but perfect is the enemy of good.
Sure. Here's the thing: you have to know what you have in your hand before you actually announce it, right? And there is that, right? And like I said, it's not going to be the end all, but it's going.
That saves so much time.
It's already doing
things.
You 80% there. I'll use a weird analogy. Remember when you used to buy a greeting card to tell someone you love them or you're something happy birthday or whatever, and it was written by somebody in Hallmark, and you went down there and it does most of it for you, but you still right at the end, I really love you a lot. Right,
exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. You have the prompt, you know what you're trying to do, and you're kind of
but you just add a little bit to it or adjust it.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And that's probably a weak narrative, but
it's great. It's a very good narrative.
I would argue that it's a pretty basic narrative.
Which part?
Of like, that's the right for me. Part of Duet AI.
Sure, right? And that's a big piece.
Yeah. And not here to argue, obviously, but I think that like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg in terms of what is coming down the pipe. Yeah. And at this point even I am applauding. I think it's pretty impressive. And for me as a seller of this and as someone who has to like take this to market and understand it to the point where I can explain it in layman's terms to people who are interested in it and evaluating it seriously for their business.
And it's hard. I had a partner say to me just on Friday, they go, our
Falling like flies. Yeah, go ahead.
Our customers want it, but they're nervous and we want you to proceed slowly.
Yeah.
Which I get it.
So hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, hit the brakes. Really, it is. And so they're excited, but they're scared. Which I heard that about the internet. I heard that about. This is
televisions.
It's not an right. I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
How old do you think he is?
Just giving examples. Other things. Was that the printing press?
Was that
was he digging at you? You heard that about television?
I left the age references behind half an hour ago. Okay.
He's piled on. I want him. Can we cut him from the film? Can we cut him from the movie thing? The Ajax. No, you're right though. It's like people are afraid. But here's the thing. Okay, so to your point, you want to talk about. I don't know if you're recording this. If you're talking about if you are talking about ageism is real because there are people actually still who mostly are your buyers, who mostly are the ones that you actually have to convince. And here's the thing I always tell anybody who sells when they're young: don't walk in and just think you're smarter and you know it all and you have something in your hand, because the guy who has the fucking finger on the checkbook, I agree with you.
Right.
Yeah.
First, I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
They may not.
Yeah.
And so you do have to convince every single decision maker that this is the right thing. And telling somebody, I'll give you an example. I don't know if this is rolling or not.
Rolling.
In 1992, I worked in an investment bank, and I came and I automated everything. And I said, I walked into my vice president's office, who's been there for 35 years, and I said, I could actually lay off 75% of your fucking team. Sorry, that's not my rolling.
It's okay. We got sensors. There's a button. I can't reach it. Go ahead.
I said, you can lay off 75% of your team by what I'm building. And his reaction was, but why would I want that? Because his ultimate power was he had 75% of his headcount that would be reduced if I actually helped eliminate it. He's like, I don't want that. So progress is always in progress for people in certain things.
Certainly.
So there is that apprehension by certain people going, well, I don't trust it, I don't get it, I don't know it, I don't want it. Or... We all agree that technology is the way forward, but there are certain people that just won't kick the tires until the tires kick them.
Well, the other element there is that people won't kick the tires until the dust settled.
Well, there's that too, right? So I don't want to be the first person to actually put my neck on the line.
Right.
But there's the other one that goes, I don't want to be the last one to actually come to the table.
Right. But one of the perpetual problems that I think we're having right now is a quote that I heard today, which said that AI used to move at 9 months, every couple of 9 months or so, you have a breakthrough, a decent breakthrough. Now it's 9 weeks. The dust isn't settling.
Oh, and no. Absolutely not. I mean, I look internally, and we're creating the light of speed. I mean, it's just like there's things that are coming just faster than even we thought. And the funny question is, like, where was that? And yes, our hand was called. You need to display these things more. But all of a sudden, now that we're actually putting these things out faster than ever before. And so, yeah, it's a little bit scary but fun at the same time. So
it's exciting.
It is exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think today was the most excited I've been for my job in at least a year and a half. I mean, I got excited when I started to specialize in this industry and started to dig into it and understand the power that we all talk about every week about Workspace, changing people's lives. And we tell those stories, and that's great. But today, it was pretty apparent that we are all involved, the 5 of us, in what is the most exciting technology on Earth right now. And I think that's kind of gravity inducing. You kind of get grounded by that a little bit, right? Starts to feel very real when you hear from customer after customer or Googler after Googler who are leaders about the impact that this is having.
Right.
And I know it's about cautious release, and that was very clear as well. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, responsible technology release here, responsibility by Google and in terms of what was available and privacy controls available to customers of Duet AI.
Your data is your data. The AI is not trained on your data, so on and so forth.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, as the vendor, we create the technology, but we don't declare what you'll do with it.
Yes, but in the early days of OpenAI, the AI was trained on said prompts that were.
I think that's also
no, and I get it, but I mean, so I think it Workspace for a second. Let's bring it back to Workspace. So we're an AI engine because people can use the content created, they can use the Workspace, but what you do with it is not up to us per se as Workspace. It's up to the partner that takes on the back end. And so when we pass content back to whoever the back end is, it's up for us to make that figure out, right? I mean, when we say you can actually grant access to your document or grant access to your Gmail or grant access to whatever you're doing, you can do what you want. We already said you can grant access. We said that for 7 years now or more than that, right? Also now you're like, well, now we can do things with it that are interesting. But that's not for us to define as Workspace.
Yeah.
So it's up for the partner, the customer, the person who says, I accept these terms.
That's the openness of Google.
And that's the beauty of it. So, I mean, a lot of people came to us and said, well, you're doing these Gen AI things in Workspace. Well, like, no, we haven't really changed a lot when it comes to Workspace as an interface. It's still Workspace. Here's your doc, here's your drive, here's your permissions, here's whatever. But you've now said, I want to send it somewhere else and have something happen. And that something else is up to you and the vendor that's doing it. Because don't forget, we're not the only person doing this. I mean, we have partners. I've seen some phenomenal demos in the last few weeks that our partners are doing around this.
The number of AI partners.
Amazing.
Showroom floor is that.
It's like mushrooms on a wet garden. They're popping up everywhere. And so, so first of all, thank you. They are, because they are creating new things. You know, the great thing about Workspace is the fact that it's an open contract between the customer, their data, and who they trust as a partner.
Yeah.
And so if I want to give my content to Google or my content to a partner I prefer to do my content, which I hope everybody does because it's phenomenal, it's richness of what you do. It's really up to the owner of the content to determine who gets to use it. And so that's, I think it's going to, and there's going to be a little bit of a turf war, right? There's a lot of folks kind of sprouting out all of a sudden, like I said, mushrooms on the garden that are coming out to figure out, like, what is the best way to use this and how to monetize. Monetize is probably the wrong word, actually, make it useful for the user, but monetize on the back end as a partner, and how do we actually see what these use cases are going to be? And so I've seen a lot of exciting things where I was like, wow, this is going to be, it's a little, you remember the land grab the last time we ventured through these things, right? Where a great technological event comes out and here we are and this is going to happen. This is it. It's the next moment.
Was that the metaverse? Was that the last major land grab?
No. There's been a lot, right? There's been so many. And
Web.com. Like,
I mean, that was a big jump.
That was a huge jump.
Well, there's been a lot of it. I mean, the cloud was a big jump, right?
Still jumping.
There are some people still jumping. Everybody was one time on-prem, now they're on cloud. Now you're on cloud, now you're on trust, now you're on take my stuff and tell me what it means. There's a lot going on there. And so the trust pieces, that's the hardest part of this. And the good thing, I think, is with you think about our platform and about Workspaces, we have those protocols in place. Now it's the vendors to figure out how do they line up, including us.
I think
how do we actually do something with this?
I think the biggest misconception that people have with Google is that there was such a consumer-focused product out there about what Google did on the consumer side of things with data. With they're trying to reinforce the fact that, hey, on the business side, that's not the case. And I think that's the biggest misconception is that
always not been the case.
But people just associate the consumer side of things with Google to the business side, and that is, I think that's the biggest problem that I think is what's happening is that people think about Google as consumer ads, sharing data, selling stuff.
They're also addressing
versus business and like business data. It's a big difference.
They're also addressing the leaks.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that there are companies that have had users
the biggest thing.
upload
There's
confidential data.
I hardly ever see
to large language
Google
models
having leaks and data stuff with Google.
So
it's so rare.
So that's
Samsung uploaded their architecture, their chip architecture.
That's what I'm
saying.
I think
by accident.
So it's just a lot of weird dynamic of like Google is actually more secure than any other platform I've ever seen, but they have this misconception from the consumer side of things that they're sharing information. It's a weird idea.
So Steve, you're right. Yeah. You're right. The biggest hurdle we had to overcome, I think, was making people feel comfortable with the cloud.
Yeah.
And the folks that really push the envelope, when you think about what the EU said about, you need to ensure that our content is in our country. It's whatever. This is going to be a redo again. The same thing. I mean, to me, the number one use case of why Workspace is interesting from AI is take my content and help me do something with it.
Right. Yeah.
From a security standpoint, take my content and don't fucking steal it.
Right.
Don't even look at it.
Which again,
and there's so much information that Google shares about this.
Want you to make it worth something to me, but I don't want my content to anyone else. So that's going to be our hardest thing. And again, it's the same thing when we went to the EU. It was like, where's the trust? Where I say,
there is a lot of trust and data that Google shares about that. All these, open resources that they say, we get all these requests about data.
Part of it's already there,
and they deny half these requests for data.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? And I don't see that with many other platforms.
And you're right. And part of it's already there. I think our infrastructure is already in place where I say, okay, here's my Google Drive. I already put my stuff in Drive.
Yeah.
I've already entrusted you with Drive. Sure. I already know who owns Drive. I'm not going to let any person or app or AI thing touch my Drive anyway. Right. So I think we're almost already there technologically. It's more metaphorically, emotionally. Like, do I now trust it? Yeah, wait, you're reading my Drive? But you've already said this is what we can and can't touch. Right. So we're there, but people have to get that fact that
understand that. Yeah,
this is because the jewels, the riches are your chats, your Drive, your docs, your conversations, your video transcripts. Sure. I have this phenomenal demo that I was blown away by that one of the folks on our team wrote. They take your meeting transcripts from Google Meet and they shove it to AI and they summarize the meeting. They tell you everything about it. And you don't have to go to the meetings anymore, which by the way, I love that thing. Don't go to the meeting, screw the meeting, skip it. And they tell you everything that happened, who attended, what the action items are, how long it will, all. And you're like, yes, please. But it's the trust we need.
Right.
And the trust, like the first time you went on the internet and you put your bank account in, and I think online banking's cool until it's in Zimbabwe and you've just paid somebody else. There is the trust thing. I don't think the trust curve is huge. I think we're ready for it. I think it's going to happen. I think by next year this time, this is a big conversation.
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like a whole like a Duet feature is basically giving like a, I guess from a Workspace admin's perspective, is like giving a domain-wide delegation, whether it's to like a Gmail API, Drive API, Chat API, so they can ingest the content into whether it's Vertex AI or Duet AI so like analyze the content and then just produce like a content that's relevant to the end users. So I think as long as the admins have a good understanding of like what services might be covered by the Duet API and having some, I guess, guardrails around it, or some, like if they're regulated industry, whether it's like a HIPAA, like one of our customers like mentioned, hey, like if we are to sign up for HIPAA or sign up for Duet AI, we want to have a really clear wording around, or is like Duet AI covered under HIPAA? Then we can just sign the BAA and we'll be good, and we can just have the users start to use it. So that was a conversation that came up.
So one of the weird things as a developer advocate, I have two questions I get all the time. What can you do with the platform, and what can't you do with the platform? In other words, what do you allow, and what do you block and not allow? How do you allow me to do great things, and how do you protect me from doing bad things? And it's the weird things, the whole yin and yang. It's like, I would love to expand all the great things you do. The things you do are amazing, but how do I stop the things that aren't amazing? And things I'm scared of. And that's the weirdest things. Like, it's one step forward, one step back. How do you get people the confidence? We have amazing things you can build, but how do you make them go, well, but you can only build it if you actually are given the permission to it. Oh, but I don't know how I have.
So that brings up a very interesting little topic that comes into my mind, which is part of some of the new features around chat and the responses around threading.
Oh.
So yes, this is what we talked about today.
Hot topic.
It's
Steve's favorite.
I'm going to pass on some of these questions because I had a few days of sleep that I loved.
Yeah. So think about Hangouts, right? Chat before it was the inline threading, right? when you go to your chat and you're talking to someone and you turn off the history.
No history.
If you say something to someone, you don't expect what you said to them to ever come back into the history, to the record, like, into Vault, right? To being saved indefinitely, right?
Yeah.
It's there, ephemerally, right? It's there for 24 hours. You cannot, of course you can take a picture of it, sure, this and that. You can copy and paste the text, sure, but you can't use the product to, quote that again and maybe say it again. But with the new inline threading with chat, that's what now is possible. So let's just say that you and I have a conversation. I turn off the history and I say, Charles, here's the password to my account, right? It's offline, no history, right? And then I say it offline. I say it the offline history. And now I turn it back on because we're talking, normal stuff. But this, with the new inline threading feature, you can quote the password that I sent you before and bring it back to the history conversation, which to me is like, that should not be possible. Like, that conversation there was off the record, should not have been recorded, not on history. You should not be able to quote that. It shouldn't be possible. Like, that's my expectation as a user, right? So this is something I'm seeing now in this new kind of, chat experience. And that whole topic of the new chat experience, I mean, we could talk for a whole couple hours on this whole thing, but that's one specific thing that I saw today, or that I mentioned today, to some of the PMs on the chat team. And I said, hey, I've seen this happen. As a user, you'd expect that to never be possible to bring that back onto the record. It was off the record conversation. You shouldn't be able to quote it again, and it shouldn't be able to come back to the conversation.
First of all, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, call me Elton John, but I think I've got rose-colored glasses on when it comes to chat after today's session. The announcements that came out for chat today,
impressive.
I think
yes,
completely dwarf the small concern you're illuminating, which I think can be fixed quickly.
It can.
Also, to the point,
I think it's important to illuminate.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I agree with you.
I
agree that should not be a thing.
Right.
But what are we talking about here? We had some monumental announcements about chat today.
Okay.
But when we brought up this issue with the PMs there, their instant response was, well, that's probably unexpected behavior. Let's go check that out.
Or maybe that's how it's intended. Or
it might have been.
I don't really know. So.
It might have been an oversight, but I imagine it is going to be very quickly corrected. We covered this a week or two ago, I think, when you first had that experience there. So there are still some issues.
I use that feature a lot to share confidential information that this should not be, seen and stored. And someone was just like, "Oh, I'll quote this and respond to it," and then boom, there it is on the record now.
Right,
it's recorded. And it's just like that should not have happened.
Let me recommend to you the application called WhatsApp.
Let's go on to a less secure platform to share more secure information.
So
WhatsApp
I expect this is the point where I should go to the bathroom again.
Just send me the password in Snapchat, please, Troy.
Please, there we go. Snapchat. I'm gonna SMS it to you.
All right.
No, I mean, what are we talking about?
So there were some incredible things, to your point, that were announced today. And we've been recording for over an hour here. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that this is the show to start actually going into updates, because this has been an amazing conversation.
Right.
It's 1 a.m. and I'm not sure I'm even going to get this episode out tonight. So what are your thoughts, guys? You want to keep going?
I'll come back tomorrow and we'll summarize 2 days of updates in one show. If you like.
Well, in my experience, the second day is usually pretty weak as far as updates goes. That being said, I've triple booked myself into sessions tomorrow somehow, and the schedule builder didn't let you do that. So I'm really not sure how I managed it, but I'm sure we'll book tomorrow like all day.
It's been, I think if you want to go to the session, you can get in. The standby line is pretty empty, so it's most people don't show up that have booked.
Well, I had a pro hack today. I left my phone in the theater when we had the fire alarm that went off. I forgot I had left my test phone. I had it on the seat in between my legs, and then I got up to leave because it was all like a little bit of weird, and it had fallen down. I forgot it. So I went back like an hour later.
Trying to figure out where this is going. Where is this going?
Pro tip.
Okay.
Security. I went back an hour or so later, just as the next session was about to start, which I did not register for. And I went, hey, I left my phone. Could I just hop in? Oh, no, lost and found, this and that. Hey, I left my phone. Went to the next security guard. They kept pushing me forward until I was in the theater.
Okay.
I basically got in. I got through. I got past security.
Yeah.
Without registering for the session by simply saying
Batman.
I had I'm Batman. Yeah. That's right.
They're basically
baby.
Batman.
So the first
I've got my
thing,
utility belt.
the first thing I've learned is everything you heard is not true. Right? I mean, we had people lined up for the session that couldn't get in, and some that did, blah blah blah, whatever. So the hacks are necessary, but they're not necessarily the only thing that happens. But
No. Register for your sessions, folks.
So here's the funny thing, and here's my tip out of this. And again, this is not a tip; it's a tip for Googlers, not a tip for you guys. We couldn't register for sessions, so we didn't know what the impact was. We didn't know, so I couldn't.
Oh, really?
When I logged in with a Google account,
That's annoying.
No, it's totally annoying. I couldn't tell. First of all, I thought nobody was coming to my session, which probably would have been better at the end of the day. But yeah, no,
with the Wi-Fi down, maybe.
it could have been the better outcome. But the whole point is we didn't know what was going on, and we couldn't tell volumes, and so I couldn't even sign up for sessions and figure out what the math was. And so there's a weird thing about Google. So we have a lot of first-party stuff that we do that's internal only, that only Googlers say. Liners on. And then there's everything we release to the public, which you see differently, blinders off. And what matters is the user experience should be what's blinders off. And so that's not just sessions. There's a lot of things we do that we do internally that we do it for days, hours, months, and years. Internally, then we roll it outside and go, well, it'll of course work because we've already pushed it. And you go, yeah, but you haven't pushed it to the public. You've done it blinders on. Mm-hmm. And I've had a few instances recently that actually have happened where I've had blinders on that worked perfectly and blinders off. It didn't. So my whole thing, Googlers listening, blinders off, do it for everybody else first, and not for Googlers. So we had a big thing where we just, blinders on, I didn't even know what people were signing up for. I had no idea because it just said, well, we don't want you to book it because that wouldn't make sense.
Well, you'd be taking him a seat.
But you should be.
But you should be. Well, you should be in the room,
That's the whole point.
But blinders on, I should know how many seats are there and how it works. And so there's this whole thing, if you don't build it so it scales outside the firewall.
Yeah.
So, rule number one, Googlers. Blinders off, build it for everybody first, and then figure out how to use it. If everyone can't use the same feature and it can't work, that's not a feature. Sorry.
Nice.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that kind of summarizes the whole night, I guess, right there, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
summarize the whole day.
Well, the whole
AI, do it. AI.
Well, no, it just summarizes,
No, let's.
No, I do think you're right, though. I think you're right, Charles. Because honestly, we all have our Google hats on at all times, and I think we're all like in this ecosystem. We're all like entrenched in it day to day.
Yeah.
Especially you guys covering updates daily, quite literally. I think oftentimes we get into a conversation with someone who's on a different set of tools, or they're not as well versed, and it's very easy for us to take shortcuts because of the fact that like everyone we work with is all in, because we all believe in it, right? So like we believe in it. As soon as you get outside of that circle of trust, you have to kind of consider that a little bit more, and I think there are some areas where that falls short, and maybe you could talk to that a little bit more as a Googler than I could. But
I had a great lesson today. I had a gal come up to our booth and said, I'm working for a biotech. I want to figure out how to make workflows to help my people that are helping, create drugs and whatever they do. I don't know biotech. Save lives. And we look at it as a workflow problem. They look at it as a saving lives problem. Mm-hmm. And the whole point is you can't look at it as, I'm trying to figure out how do I make this binary switch where I can do this, this, and this. They're trying to figure out the real thing they're trying to do is make people not die, which is a really admirable cause. And we're trying to figure out, well, in technical terms, well, that would be you could make an add-on that they could actually then do this.
Right? No,
they want to make people not die.
Yeah. Live, not die.
And we talk to them like, oh, this is a very binary issue. What if you did this?
Living and dying is binary, technically.
It is, but they're like, how do we make it so that we can actually help our researchers make better products that make better drugs that people don't die from? And we're like, well, if you put this ad on the... No, you have to understand the customer's needs, not your needs for them to be successful with what you do. And easy answer, anybody in a walk of life, go out and talk to your customers, and listen to them, and then figure out how you get back into it. Because we have great technologists who understand technology phenomenally, but talk to the customer about how do you solve that problem and what their problem is, and don't just say, well, I figured this great thing out. No, how do you actually anyway, and that's a big takeaway for me. Every day I love to hear from the customer about what are you trying to do, not what I want you to do or what's important to us or what doesn't matter.
Fantastic. Well, I think if I keep talking, I'm going to start mumbling, and then nobody will be able to know what I'm saying. So, gents, thank you for joining us. This has been much like, NVIDIA on stage, a momentous occasion. Maybe not on the same scale, but at least it is for us.
I think actually better than that. Yeah.
Better than that?
Yeah,
better than that?
Sure.
One day we shall be a $1 trillion company as well, perhaps. I guess we're going to do another episode tomorrow night.
We will.
I'm not entirely sure when these are going to release, but there'll be another episode after this, so stay tuned. Yeah. Gents, thanks for joining us on the first ever in-person Google Workspace Recap covering Google Next in San Francisco in person. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.